But this week, I found myself revisiting a very big part of what I would call my past life or something I was involved in many years ago. I'll tell you what it was. Some of you know that I had owned and was a big yogi in my past life from the ages of 20 to about 38. I not only was a practitioner of yoga, but I was an instructor, a teacher. I did teacher trainings, and I had ultimately 3 yoga studios. So, a big part of my identity, my life, was being a yoga teacher, right? People used to say, oh, the yoga girl, there she is. So I had a really large identity. A lot of myself was wrapped up in the world of yoga and self-development and somatics and body awareness and learning a lot about the intricacies of not only my physical body, but for me, a large portion of my practice then began and opened doors to the journey into my own consciousness development, healing, integration, trauma that was coming up in those moments of profound stillness and peace. Often things start to reveal themselves to you that are on a much deeper level. So yoga is very interesting because in the West, it is a very good modern tool in my perspective to help de-stress, learn fundamentals of how the body works, breathing, anatomy, movement. It's a healthy way to de-stress. It's a healthy way to find balance in a very chaotic world that most of us find ourselves in today. So I am a proponent of yoga, but for myself, the more I really committed and devoted myself to the practice, it wasn't just relief, right? And that's what usually I would discover with my students would be, I feel so much better when I come to yoga. I love it here. I can't wait to come because they find this moment, this brevity of alignment, of just relaxation, decompression, just a moment of stillness amongst their very chaotic life. So it's very helpful for many people. The longer you're in the practice, it goes deeper. To me, it's like you start surface with the physical, and then layer by layer, you actually get into the emotions. I just made a video on the fascia and how our memories can be stored in this deep connective tissue. And layer by layer, you start to go deeper. And the deeper you go, sometimes the murkier and more complicated it gets. And for myself, at some point, I realized that the deeper I was going, the more it was confronting this facade of love and light, which was, what we all wanted to feel after our practice was we wanted to feel alignment and feel good. But the deeper I went, the more was being excavated. And there was some stuff coming up after many years that I can only, say was repressed feelings, traumas, things that wanted to expand and come forth from me that maybe I wasn't actually prepared to look at. And actually, no amount of yoga or breathing at some point worked. I had opened this Pandora's box of things that wanted to come forth in service to my own continued devotion to my healing process. So it can become very psychological, very, very emotional, psychological, very mental. And it can get to the point where, we need to have other people on board as these deeper aspects of the self start to illuminate. Some people find that they can really organize and face and purge and be their own self-healer along their process. But it's really no joke when you devote yourself to a complete overhaul and cleanse, which eventually that devotion to something like a yoga practice is just inviting that stuff to come forth that's not serving you. So it's a very multi-dimensional practice. And again, it's up to you on how deep you want to go. A lot of times here in the West, it's a very superficial practice, meaning it's more physical, right? And there's just touches and little glimpses of this love and light and spiritual development. And that's enough for some people, and that's fine. For me, it wasn't enough. I'm a big Albert Camus fan, and it's like, go as deep as you can, because that's where the truth is going to be. Like, just go in, just fully immerse yourself. And that was my experience. So it was my identity for a long time. And it was about 8 years ago or so, I had a massive, massive catalytic awakening that maybe was, the yoga, I think, was preparing me actually to be able to handle the cataclysmic feelings and experiences that I was having. I call it a spiritual awakening. And if you look back on my channel, it was around 2015. I talk about it, and you can kind of see the disorientation, because really, my identity has started to, everything wanted to be stripped clean. And a lot of people understand this. You may consider it something like an existential crisis or a trauma that you're going through, or just life in general, where there's this beckoning, this calling to just change. And it's deep, and it's like, not just change my hair or my nail color. It's like change my job, my life, my location, everything. And that can be very overwhelming. You have to have a level of openness to go on a journey where you can't see or feel the safety of a perceived outcome very often. So there's a lot on the table when you go into this sort of hero's journey, and it's disorienting. So that was the journey that I went on. And then I found myself desiring to start my nonprofit. So I went into a different realm called Awakening Healthcare, and going from the yoga community to a perceived healthcare realm is completely dichotomous in the West. It's very different worlds, very different worlds. So there was an adjustment period. I wasn't prepared for the different sort of realm. I really wasn't. It was the yoga realm, when you go very deep, is very internalized. It's a lot about the development of your inner world and aligning yourself, and very philosophical, very just very deep, very, very introverted. And then the reflection in the world is because of the inner development that you've done. And sometimes in the West, in the world that we live in, things are kind of an opposite. It's like more external. What I do proves who I am kind of mentality. Whereas the yoga realm, that inner realm, is different. It's everything, and my external is a reflection of my internal reality. It's not what I do on the external determines who I am on the inside. So in a way, both of these matter. And I've learned over many, many years that there has to be somewhat of an awareness and a balance. Many people go through their entire life, and this kind of work is just not important to them, or they fail to heed the calling because of fear or what have you, or it's not part of their experience. And anyone's karma in their lifetime is not mine to judge, really. Like, I have no idea exactly why everybody is here. And so it's important for me not to judge that. But to kind of wrap up my story here is that I've decided to, for various reasons, go back into doing some yoga after being just dabbling on my own and kind of being out of the realm fully for many, many years. And I'm finding myself having a little bit of judgment going back into something that I was so deeply involved in, because I can see the similar trappings that I got caught in through the expressions of some other people. And I'm finding myself having to deal with this sensation of judgment that's coming up of, that's not integrated. It's all love and light. There's no masculine integration, whatever it may be, these little thoughts that come into the mind, right? And I'm aware of it. And obviously yoga is still good for me physically. That's one of the reasons why I'm going back. But there was something really missing for me at some point in my practice. And I'm going back into the practice, seeing that same thing here, still missing. So I've been doing a lot of sitting with myself and really trying to look at my own mental projections and really understand that it's important to not judge the things that have shaped you. And that's really what I wanted to say today, is that whether or not you are progressing in your life kind of linearly, usually that's not how it is. It's more of a spiral. So we tend to revisit aspects of ourselves and dimensions of our being that maybe are calling for a deeper level of healing or experience, or there's something more there to distill, or something there that can nourish us. And some people have this mentality that we get caught in loops, or they'll say, oh, I'm in a cycle, I'm looping, I'm back here again. Why am I here again? I'm past this already. And I understand that. I've been looking at that within myself on my healing process this week of, is it that I truly don't really resonate, and that's okay? Or is it that I'm returning back to distill some more balance and some more, love for this huge identity that helped shape who I am today? So yeah, so just, just my thoughts, my feelings, where I'm at is revisiting an identity and really learning to, again, completely honor and appreciate that which shaped me, even if it ultimately misled me in ways. Okay. Think about this a lot also in, the realm of healthcare and the providers training and experience that they've been through. I hear from many of them that it's traumatizing, and people get out of it because of the trauma of the education and the institutional setting and how things are organized and run. But again, just kind of understanding on a broader perspective is that we all are where we are because we've taken specific journeys in our life and have made choices. And my yoga life, was formidable. It was over almost 20 years of my identity. I don't do it anymore, nor do I long to go back, even though I know I'm good at it. It feels second nature to me, feels very good to my body. I really just genuinely am in a different part of my life and a different identity, but really understanding that you can't hate, be frustrated, judge that experience, even if it's difficult or it traumatized you, or you felt it misled you. It's good not to judge the experience that have shaped you and brought you to this point, even if it was painful.